Hello, everyone. Welcome on this new episode of Education Futures. If you like the show, please give us a rating on your favorite podcast platform. This means a lot to us, and we get many more views and listens if you do so. So, thank you so much in advance. Today, I'm very happy to be with Chris Agnew. Hello, Chris, and welcome to the show.
So nice to be here. Thanks for having me, Svenia.
Very glad to have you and very excited for this conversation. You lead the AI Hub for Education at the Stanford Accelerator for Learning. Your role is this of a translator. You bring cutting edge research produced by interdisciplinary teams of PhDs and researchers, and you bridge that research with real and messy sometimes needs of educators and school leaders and system making decision makers. And very happy to hear more about about the research that you bring to us non-researchers. And your path into AI in education isn't exactly typical. You have mentioned that from India to remote glaciers in British Columbia to Grand Teton National Park, you worked in environmental and experiential education for a big part of your career. And I'm very much interested in this as well. So, can you walk us through your journey to start this conversation?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I would say in the realm of AI and AI specifically in education, I do have a non-traditional biography in coming here as a non-technical person, as someone who spent much of my education career in non-traditional learning environments. So my entire career has been in education for 25 years, and in many ways, I'd say it might have started in high school when I first stepped into a role of kind of a structured teaching realm. In the state of Washington, where I grew up, all fourth grade students had an opportunity to spend a week in connected to school, to spend a week with a residential environmental education learning experience. So you'd go to, say, a camp and learn about the environment for a week. So I did this as a student, an elementary school student, but then as a high schooler, high school students could volunteer to be instructors for this environmental education program for the local elementary school. So sophomore year of high school, I volunteered for this because I thought, oh, this is great. Instead of spending a week in history class, I can spend a week outdoors with kids. How great. So I initially did it, I think, probably for some selfish reasons. And I did it the following 2 years, so sophomore, junior, senior year of high school, and really opened my eyes to, one, my enjoyment in exposing people to learning outside of four walls of a classroom. And two, that the definition of a classroom could be much broader than what I had historically experienced in my own school career. And so that really launched my trajectory of education. And for many years, spent my time kind of bouncing back and forth classroom setting in the K-12, mostly high school teaching, and then spending a good chunk of the year teaching high school and college age students in outdoor classrooms, community-based classrooms, apprenticeship-based classrooms. And much of my career was the struggle in trying to bridge this gap and pull in the relevance and applied learning and joy of these non-traditional learning environments with the classic rigor, academic rigor of the more formal setting. I went to graduate school for this, and coming out of graduate school was 2005. And this is peak no child left behind era in the US. So we're talking high stakes testing, kind of a focus on rigor and back to basics, and all that matters is test scores. And in many ways, there was not, I did not feel a place for me in K-12 education at that time. Fast forward a bunch of years, in 2015, I had the opportunity to lead an organization called Teton Science Schools that had a K-12 lab school, hosted school groups from around the country to learn next generation science standards in the national park. And we had a graduate school for education to train teachers to do the like, in partnership with 6 universities. Wonderful experience. I was there for 6 years. And ultimately I left in very early 2021, really for a couple of reasons. One, this is, 9 months into COVID, keeping the school doors open during COVID era, for all those teachers and leaders that experienced that, very difficult. But the bigger reason that I'd been struggling with for a number of years was, we knew that these powerful hands-on learning experiences, all kids deserve this. All kids deserve to learn in these more joyful, skills-based experiential learning environments. They're fundamentally operationally complex and expensive to run, and therefore really inaccessible to the majority of children. And Teton Science Schools, being based in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, one of the wealthiest zip codes in the country, even with massive philanthropy, there was not a path to scale and access for all kids. And so I realized, okay, the business model for this is broken. Technology has to play a role to reduce cost and increase access. So I spent a handful of years working for a couple of venture-backed ed tech startups, not having a tech background previously, to learn where my previous skills relevant, what do I have new to learn. The second of those venture-backed ed tech companies I worked for was a place called Multiverse, that uses apprenticeships as an alternative to university. Based in the UK, I was on their early team that entered the US market. I led their US higher ed strategy. And while there, ChatGPT, exploded onto the scene in late 2022. And some of our early work there was looking at saving coaches, which played the role of kind of the instructor to apprentices. Historically, they had spent a huge volume of their time grading apprentices' work, matching it to learning outcomes. All human review. And that stole from time they could have been giving to more synchronous face-to-face coaching time with apprentices. And so we started prototyping, building some early products using AI to take a first pass at matching student work to learning outcomes that then would shorten the volume of time for apprentices. And that was a real aha moment for me in recognizing, okay, I've been working all my life to create these learning opportunities for young people where they could have real experiences in the world that would build their skills and knowledge and be recognized to kind of launch their life and careers. And there were all these barriers to making that happen at scale: cost barriers, operational barriers. Could AI be an unlock for some of those barriers and actually be an enabler for more of these in real life learning experiences? So accelerate to today, we launched the AI Hub for Education when I started in summer of 2024. It's part of the Scale initiative that is part of Stanford Accelerator for Learning. And we exist to be a trusted source for education system leaders. So our target audience is superintendent and state K-12 leaders. to be a resource for them on what's working and what's not when it
Mhm.
comes to AI to benefit students, schools, and learning. And we do this through doing original research, spotlighting the research that does exist, and then translating that research with tools oriented for these practitioners to help them make better decisions.
Amazing. So I have plenty of questions after this introduction of yours. This is all fascinating. The first one is what works? What did you find out about the things that were working? And another question attached to that, if it's working now, will it be working in a few years' time? How fast is this evolving? Because I guess research and the rapidity of technology are sometimes incompatible, because you research something and 1 month later something else has happened. And so how do you deal with that? Sorry, two questions in one.
Yeah, no, you you bridge directly to where I was going to start with my answer, in that um, we have known for decades, or a challenge within education systems at large for since the beginning, is this research to practice gap. It's difficult to do good research that then actually changes practice at a meaningful scale. So that has existed. And what's different today is that, as you articulated very accurately, the speed of this technology, it's cliche, and as many cliches are, grounded in truth, it's unprecedented, right? As far as, a product that's you might have used 2 months ago, you go back and try using it again, and it's changed in meaningful ways.
Yeah.
ChatGPT 5 becomes ChatGPT 5.2.
Yeah.
Notebook LM now makes infographics in addition to podcasts. It's moving quickly. And so some of this might be differences and evolutions that are meaningfully different. Some may not, but what it does create is just this buzz, noise, and sense of overwhelm for teachers, for leaders, for parents of, oh my gosh, what do I pay attention to? And what is just noise and hype, which is really difficult. And what we are working to do is be a grounded, trusted source, and to return to the research. Okay, what does the evidence say? And so our core challenge is bridging that research practice divide, and to kind of rethink it for this faster phase. And so there are a variety of means that we're tackling this by. So we still believe that RCTs and efficacy research are essential to do this work well. And much of our early research to start actually is to set the stage for where do we go deeper on efficacy research, is doing landscape mapping to start. And what I mean by landscape mapping is, so much of the research we know right now, or data we know right now, is survey-based, because those can be spun up quickly and executed in a matter of days to weeks. We asked, or I'm not saying we, an institution asked 4,000 teachers on how they're using AI, asked 2,000 high school students how they're using AI. This is good as a snapshot, but it's a moment in time. And humans are flawed at accurately identifying their own practice, and so our landscaping mapping research looks to access real user data from many of these commonly used platforms, either ed tech or big tech. And from this real user data on what people click on, how much time they're spending on what, how that's changing over time, to get an accurate picture of what's happening, how it's evolving, and use that also as a proxy for where teachers are seeing value and where they're not, and to identify, okay, what are the deeper questions where we need to start evaluating efficacy. So that's one way to move faster on this. Secondarily, we are approaching this not with our sole end goal being peer-reviewed, published academic papers, while that is still important, but to share knowledge and insights, or maybe even just observations while we learn them. So certainly we are working towards published peer-reviewed work, but as we move to that end goal, we have these quarterly sprints where we look at data, we take insights from that, and then we share a blog post that shares, okay, here's what we're observing right now. A much more informal, non-peer-reviewed, not definitive, but maybe directional on, okay, here's what we're seeing, to be able to empower these education system leaders with, maybe to sort some signal from all the noise in the universe right now on AI and education. And last piece I'll mention is I've been talking a little bit about our focus and goals around original research, but also there is lots of research that's happening, both from formal academics and then also NGOs and other organizations. And so an important role that we play is spotlighting the research that does exist. So we have something called the research repository that we update monthly that holds all the existing academic papers that exist relevant to AI in K-12. Right now, there's over 1,000 in there. So we intend for that to be one place where practitioners, product builders, researchers can go to find out, okay, what do we know right now? And we're really excited about, so it's curated for relevance right now because we can quickly identify these papers are relevant and put them all in the same place. What's harder to do is sort out, okay, these papers are of quality and rigor, and these ones really matter, and these ones less so. So we've been working on for about 6 months, and in early March, plan to release the State of AI Research in K-12 report, which takes all the papers that do exist in the repository right now and distill down, okay, what are the key insights we can take away from the research as it stands right now to help these system leaders say, okay, I need to build a strategy for my district. I need to make buying procurement decisions for this school. How can I make that more evidence-based? And we hope that the State of AI Research in K-12 report can be a good grounding for those decisions.
Amazing. How often are you going to publish this report, or how often are you going to update it?
So this is the first one. We would intend for this to be annual with a caveat of the research repository right now is it's a library of papers, and it is reliant upon the user to either, they go there, they search for or filter for their need, their question, their answer. They're interested in middle school math outcomes, or they're interested in building social emotional wellness, or they're interested, in AI for teacher professional development. So they filter for those, they identify a group of papers that are relevant to that. They could download those papers and spend hours or days reading them all. They could upload them to a notebook LM to synthesize takeaways or things like that. We hear a number of use cases. But our hope and our aspirations over the coming months and years is what we've learned through this process of building the State of AI Research in K-12 report to start to build some of those techniques that we've developed in like synthesizing key learnings with strong human review by our research team, and start to build that into the repository itself in more regular mechanisms. So users can go back to the repository and start to see additional features over time. So not only is it just a library of papers, which is a great start and a great foundation, but then how can you turn that library of papers into a more interactive resource to gain insights that are personalized to your needs as a leader?
Excellent, excellent idea. Can you give us some early insights? I know the report is not out yet. It will be in a few weeks, as I understand it. And I would love to know some early insights, the things that you've learned building this report.
Yeah, I would say it's premature for a couple reasons, because we are in kind of 0 hour right now in ensuring that the key insights that we've teased out have the rigor to that we can stand behind them. But I can say a few things. Generally, we are at a nascent stage of research, and so the report will be structured with six kind of insight categories. So we talk about two important variables for AI in education. One is, who is the user? So immediately when people think AI in education, what comes to mind is a student sitting at a laptop engaging with a chatbot, right?
Yeah.
That's one way AI can be embedded in education. So student as user. Also, teacher can be user. School leader can be user. A parent or caregiver can be user. And these, you could have a school where students never engage with AI directly, but AI supports the teachers in their various tasks. You could have a school district where the administration is using AI to better analyze data. And it could be a no tech or low tech school where students are not engaging. So that's AI with user as the variable. There's also the intent for using AI. Why one might be using AI. We often find it's the intent can be classified in one of three categories. So one, often what we see is the most common today is AI for efficiency. Can AI save teachers 6 hours a week, say? Can we use this to save our data team time? So AI to save time, efficiency. Second category, AI to improve outcomes. So this could be AI to improve student academic outcomes. It could be to improve durable skill development. It could be to improve differentiation. So big tent umbrella, all types of outcomes, but generally the intent is using AI to improve student outcomes.
And we have evidence on this. We know that it can improve student outcomes.
So I'll introduce the three categories and get to kind of insights in a minute. The third category would be AI to reimagine. So AI to rethink fundamentally what the systems and structures are for a learning experience, particularly given the changing needs for our young people for their future. So if you filter, so our six categories, the State of AI report will analyze is student and teacher for each of those three categories of intent. So student to save time, student for outcomes, student for reimagining. Teacher for efficiency, teacher for outcomes, teacher for reimagining. If you get outside of those two users, or you immediately get down to, especially if we're looking at causal-based research, so research looking at efficacy, like a randomized controlled trials or quasi-experimental research. There are, I'm talking literally, handfuls or less of papers with parents or caregivers or school leaders as the users of AI. So that's why we're focusing only on students and teachers. And if you categorize in each one of those categories for outcomes, say, and you're only looking at causal papers, immediately we're filtering down to a handful of papers that are of high quality, relevant to teachers and improving student outcomes, or teachers and saving time. So the headline is, there will be nothing that is a definitive hang our hat on, this is what we know right now. Everything will be, AI shows promise in being able to save teachers time. There was RCT conducted, I think, in late 2024, looking at science teachers in the UK using ChatGPT, and their findings found that it saved teachers, I think it was just under 30 minutes a week in lesson planning and preparation. So that's one signal we're seeing. That's one paper under one set of contexts. So it's promise, it's not definitive. So we're at a stage of lots of hints. And it's something I often tell education system leaders today when they're trying to prioritize what to do and build long-term strategies. It's impossible for anybody to know what 3 years will look like in the future. Even the people running these large tech companies don't know. And so in leading systems right now, it requires much shorter term experiments, and thinking in experiments and thinking in collecting data and kind of more rapid cycle iteration, which, having led a school, schools are not trained to do that or set up to do that. They're thinking really long term about kids' development over 12 years of school and their future to an adult. And this shift of thinking in shorter term experience is hard. And right now it's essential because of the rapid nature of change, and it being hard to foresee what 3 years in the future looks like.
Yeah, indeed. I like this advice that you're giving. Short-term experiments versus long-term strategy making in a world where we don't actually know what tomorrow is made of. But still, it's the work that we do at Education Futures. We really try to imagine desirable futures for education in the age of AI. And this is why I really want to ask you what you think the school of the future should look like. And you run schools in the past, so you have a good sense of what it is now and what it could be. So I'm really curious to know about your vision of the school of the future when we say in 15-20 years time, if we should build a school that would still be suited for the time, for that time. How would it look like? Where should it be? In a forest, in the nature, or like what is your dream school looking like?
So I love that you asked this, and I think it's an important thing to think about, because so often right now, and I alluded to this before, education system leaders and teachers have decisions they need to make for next week. They're like, I got to make a lesson plan for my class on Monday. A principal's thinking, I've got to build a parent communication plan for spring around X, Y, and Z priorities. And so what that can lead to, because real educators have real tasks to go to near time, we can end up using AI to often for efficiency focus, and to optimize our current flawed K-12 system, instead of as an opportunity to also reimagine what the future looks like. And so being able to be practical and helpful in those decisions for next week and make better decisions for next week while simultaneously holding this, oh, and what could it create for the future? So our team is part of our PI is Dr. Susanna Loeb, and she leads something called Getting Down to Facts for the state of California that happens every time there's a change in the governor. And so Governor Newsom has finished after later this year, there's an election. And so with this governor transition, he convenes a team of over 50 researchers with expertise in different areas of K-12 to do a deep dive on that topic and the state of that topic for the state of California. So think school finance and K-12, or charter schools in K-12, or early childhood literacy. And then this all goes into a big report for the incoming governor or the candidates for governor to say, okay, this is what you're inheriting. Here's the state of it, and here are the opportunities. So our lab specifically is building a paper about the AI opportunities within K-12 in California. And instead of a common fault or challenge is starting with the technology first, and like, it's the classic, I have a hammer, now where are all the nails that I can bang with that hammer? But instead, how we're starting with this paper is, what are the experiences that kids need more of? What are the affects and capacities we're looking to develop in kids? What are the experiences that create those affects and capacities? And what have the historical blockers been for creating more of those experiences? And could AI unlock some of those previous blockades? And so some things, I won't go through the whole paper, but I think this gets to your great question about what the vision might be for the future. And some of those components would be the ability to measure and therefore value capacities and traits in kids at scale outside of just what did you score on your math exam and what did you score on your reading exam. Those are important, and they're a very narrow window, one, into what kids know and can do, and also what will set them up for success in the future. So a more expanded capacity to assess and provide feedback to young people. So think their ability to be a good teammate and a collaborator. Think better abilities to assess and provide feedback on somebody's communication skills or critical thinking skills, these metacognitive things that we've talked about forever, and have really limited means, often that are self-assessed, to be able to assess and provide feedback on. So a more well-rounded, holistic perspective on measurement. Two is abilities to have more kind of team-based work and enriching discussions to build critical thinking and hear different points of view and interaction with other kids. Often schools of the future right now, I say schools of the future in quotes, look like a bunch of kids sitting in isolation with laptops. And I think we've often confused personalization with isolation. And so what are means that AI might be able to actually create more of these experiences, whether it's scaffolding for teachers, whether it's facilitation in small groups, that allow more face-to-face interaction time for discussion and collaboration with kids. So experiences like that. An important one that is personally important to me, where we started, is more real world learning
Mm.
experiences. And can you imagine schools where in the earlier years, elementary age, there's more project-based learning to improve relevance. Then as they get older and up to high school, there's more learning not only outside the classroom, but that's more apprenticeship-based that help young kids taste or experiment with what their future might look like, instead of having a picture of what it looks like to be a nurse in
Mm.
theory, and then setting their sight on that as their North Star, and then working for years until they get there. And then once they finish their training and they actually try nursing, they realize, oh, this is actually not for me. But you, as young people, you can run little experiments of what does it look like to apprentice in the medical field for a semester? What does it look like to apprentice as an electrician for a semester, as a lawyer for a semester? So much more real world learning as
Mm.
well.
I love it. I love that vision. I really love that vision. And Chris, you have read so much research on AI in education and its impacts on our learning. And so I want to know if you're hopeful for the future.
Uh, I often say this. I literally swing by the hour sometimes on great hope and uh, and great concern. And I actually, so maybe that makes me a critical pragmatist. I often think in our world today, the most radical thing to be is a moderate, or one that is able to see something from this lens and analyze it critically, and then see it from the other end of the spectrum and analyze it critically as well.
Yes.
Because it is here. And even if all schools were to shift to a low tech Waldorf school model next school year, and schools were to make the decision that they are walled off from AI, as soon as a kid steps out of school at 3 p.m., at the end of each school day, they will still be inundated in a world that is surrounded with AI. And even if they're walled off as a young person, when they step out of high school or out of college, they will step into a world of work that
Mm.
is immersed in AI. And so being a true advocate for experiential learning, emeritus professor at Stanford, Sam Weinberg, who now runs the digital inquiry group, um, he strongly advocates for, as he says, bring the outside world into the classroom. His focus with the digital inquiry group is building, he started at building critical thinking for kind of social media digital age, and now they've updated it for the AI age. But bringing the world into the classroom to help build student skills and AI literacy under the wisdom and stewardship of adults and their teachers. And he makes this distinction, which I think is really helpful, of while young people might be digital natives or AI natives, so they might be far outpace their teachers as operators of AI or navigators of AI. They don't have the life experience or brain development to yet have the judgment to make good decisions with AI. So while young people might bring the operating skills, their teachers need to help them build the discernment and judgment to use these powerful tools effectively. So it's something we need to grapple with, and shows a real opportunity to make real a lot of things we've been talking about for education for literally decades,
Mm.
to make school more relevant for the future that our young people will be stepping into, inheriting, and leading in the future.
There's this idea that AI is exposing the school system as we know it, because we've, as you say rightly so, we've been talking about the things that don't work for ages, and now AI is making those things look so much bigger. And so I think it's not a bad thing because we can now think about how we want to change the education system. But yeah, it's exposing a lot of flaws in our education system.
Yeah.
It's not always comfortable to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. So I would love to know, like, it's the ultimate question that we ask, like, who do you think we should talk to on the Education Futures podcast? It's an interdisciplinary podcast, so we have people from neuroscience, sociology, historians, we have philosophers, we have obviously tech, AI engineers, we have teachers, school leaders, people like you who are immersed in this field. But we're interested in talking to many different voices, because we can't imagine the future of education only with education experts. And so, yeah, I would be very curious to know who you would who you would recommend.
So I will, my recommendation is more, rather than a specific name, it's a persona. And what I think who you should talk to is high school students, or 1 to 3 high school students. And here's why. In my times talking to high school students about their thoughts on AI, how they're using it, how they're not using it, the lines they're drawing for themselves, even without either regulation or policy to govern their behavior, it constantly surprises me. And I think as adults, we often sit in rooms making big decisions about how kids are using it and how they should be using it. And I know I learn a lot. This summer, had the opportunity to engage for a couple days thinking about AI in education in schools, a couple years from now. And they smartly brought a few high schoolers to the table. And those were some of the people that I learned the most from in that conversation. And specifically, I did not anticipate the areas they were most bullish on with AI, and the areas they were most concerned about with AI as well. And so, yes, I think that would add great value.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I love talking to middle school and high school students. And we have an episode, episode 9, I think, that you can find for our listeners, that you can find on your favorite podcast platform, with Hudson, a high school student from San Diego.
Oh, awesome.
It was an incredible conversation.
Do you remember what school Hudson went to in San Diego?
Whew, it was a high school. I don't remember the name, but it was a public school.
I bring it up. There's a charter school network in San Diego called High Tech High. It wasn't High Tech High.
I know High Tech High.
They do really great. They do.
I know. Yeah, they do. It wasn't High Tech High. It was a public school. What's the name? I forgot. And then we also did a 4-part series with middle school and high school students for the Future of Life Institute, talking about the latest not the latest, but one of the articles that got published, called "Keep the Future Human" by Anthony Aguirre, the founder of Future of Life Institute, about our race to AGI and how threatening it is. And so I basically explained this very long paper to these kids, and then we really discussed it for a full episode, and I did it in 3 different languages.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was
Svenia, how cool!
incredible.
Oh,
It
I'll
was
have to listen
incredible,
to
and
that.
we won the contest, and we won a prize from the Future of Life Institute for this. It was
Oh,
the
that's
most
awesome.
incredible experience because these kids have so much to say, and they have so many interesting thoughts around this, and we have to put them around the table. They need to have a seat at the table for sure. So I'm
Yeah.
fully
Yeah.
aligned with what you're saying, and I will continue interviewing
Yes, that's
kids
great. So you're
and
already doing it and continue
youngsters.
to. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I really love that, because they're so wise and they're so, I don't know, it's just such an incredible experience. So yeah. Well, thank you so much for all of your insights, for this incredible chat. And also, I will put your report in the show notes as soon as it's published. So please, I will
Excellent.
follow you on LinkedIn and see when it's published. But I think it will be of interest to many of our listeners. So thank you so much, Chris,
Excellent.
for your time and for the work
Thanks
that
for
you're
having
doing.
me.
Yes, thank
Wonderful to be
you.
here.